Swipe right to die Detective Atlas Hawke. I work as a private detective in Chicago. What I found today was very disturbing. My name is Detective Atlas Hawke, and I've seen my fair share of corpses in my 15 years working cases in this city. Gang violence, domestic disputes, drug deals gone wrong, political assassinations covered up as suicides, corporate executives who accidentally fell from high-rise windows. I thought I'd cataloged every way humans could destroy each other in the pursuit of money, power, or revenge. But standing in Tyler Brooks's apartment on this gray October morning, staring at a crime scene that made absolutely no sense according to every rule of detective work I'd learned, I realized I was dealing with something entirely new, something that would challenge everything I thought I knew about predators, victims, and the increasingly blurred line between digital fantasy and deadly reality. The apartment building on North Clark Street was one of those converted brownstones that Chicago developers had gutted and rebuilt for young professionals who wanted to live close to downtown but couldn't afford the Gold Coast prices. Tyler Brooks had been one of those professionals, 28 years old, marketing coordinator for a tech startup, the kind of guy who wore expensive sneakers with his business casual outfits and posted pictures of his avocado toast on Instagram every Sunday morning. Now Tyler sat slumped over his kitchen table, still wearing the same navy blazer he'd carefully selected for his date the night before. His face was peaceful, almost serene, like he'd simply fallen asleep over dinner after a long day at work. The only signs that something was catastrophically wrong were the faint blue tinge around his lips, the way his left hand had fallen palm up beside his wine glass in a gesture that looked almost supplicating, and the untouched glass of wine sitting across from his own empty glass, a ghost's portion that would never be consumed. "No signs of forced entry," Detective Ray Morrison said, appearing beside me like a specter himself. Ray was 31, one of the few cops I still trusted from my days on the Chicago Police Department, mainly because he was too young to be thoroughly corrupted yet, and too idealistic to understand that staying clean in Chicago PD was like trying to swim upstream in Lake Michigan during a winter storm. He had the kind of earnest face that made witnesses want to tell him the truth, and the methodical mind that made him good at piecing together puzzles that would frustrate older, more cynical detectives. Neighbors heard nothing unusual last night. No shouting, no furniture being moved, no sounds of struggle. Mrs. Chen in 2B said she heard soft music around 8 p.m., maybe some quiet conversation, but nothing that raised any red flags. Landlord found him this morning when he didn't show up for work, and his boss called asking for a wellness check. "Tell me about the date," I said, pulling out my phone to photograph the scene from multiple angles. Ray consulted his notes. According to his roommate, guy named Jake Morrison, Tyler met someone on LoveSync. That's one of those dating apps where you answer personality questions, and it supposedly finds your perfect match. Tyler had been using it for about 3 months without much success, but last week he told Jake he'd found the one, said her name was Amanda, that she was perfect for him in every way. "And the roommate never met this perfect Amanda?" I asked. "Tyler was supposed to bring her back here after dinner. Jake made himself scarce, went to stay at his girlfriend's place to give Tyler privacy. When Tyler didn't come home, Jake figured things had gone exceptionally well, and Tyler had stayed at Amanda's place." I moved to Tyler's phone, which lay beside his right hand on the table, screen still unlocked and glowing faintly. The screen was frozen on the LoveSync app, showing Tyler's profile and match history. I scrolled through his recent conversations using my pen to avoid contaminating any potential fingerprint evidence. What I found made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. The message history showed Tyler talking to himself, his own messages stretching back a week, expressing excitement about meeting Amanda, asking about her favorite restaurants, sharing details about his work and hobbies, but with no responses whatsoever. "Ray, look at this." Ray leaned over my shoulder, his breath smelling like the coffee and stale cigarettes that sustained most Chicago cops through their shifts. I showed him the phone screen, scrolling through message after message from Tyler with absolutely no responses. "That's impossible," Ray said, his voice taking on the strained quality of someone trying to make sense of evidence that defied logic. "Marcus said Tyler showed him messages from Amanda just yesterday afternoon. Said she was excited about trying the seafood risotto at Piccolo Sogno." I searched Tyler's contacts, his photos, his email accounts, even his recently deleted files. No Amanda Foster anywhere. No photos of a brunette woman with green eyes. No saved phone numbers with her name. I opened the LoveSync app and checked his matches, his conversation history, his liked profiles. Nothing. It was as if Amanda Foster had been digitally erased from Tyler's life, as thoroughly as if she'd never existed at all. "This is the fourth one, isn't it?" I asked, though I already knew the answer from the way Ray's face had gone pale. Ray nodded grimly, pulling out a manila folder thick with crime scene photos and witness statements. "Sarah Martinez 3 weeks ago, found dead in her Wicker Park apartment after what her roommate described as the perfect first date. David Kim 2 weeks ago in Chinatown. Same story. Perfect date. Dead the next morning. No trace of his match. Jennifer Walsh last week in Lincoln Park. All of them died after meeting someone from a dating app, and all of their matches disappeared without a trace from their phones afterward. I studied the folder Ray handed me, flipping through crime scene photos that looked disturbingly similar to what we were seeing in Tyler's apartment. Each victim found dead at a carefully arranged dinner table, surrounded by the debris of what should have been a romantic evening. Each scene meticulously staged, each victim appearing peaceful, almost content. Each crime scene featuring a single red rose placed prominently, but with no explanation for how it had gotten there. Cause of death? I asked. Aconitine, Ray said. A plant-based toxin. Highly lethal, but it takes time to work. Causes cardiac arrest, but the victim remains conscious almost until the end. They would have felt like they were falling asleep after the most perfect date of their lives. I stood up and walked around the table, studying Tyler's body position and the arrangement of items around him. The killer had positioned everything with artistic precision. This wasn't just murder, it was performance art with a deadly twist. I moved to Tyler's kitchen, examining the wine bottle that sat open on the counter. The bottle was exactly half empty. But if the killer had drugged Tyler's wine, why would they have drunk from the same bottle? Tucked behind a carton of expired milk, I found something interesting. A small glass vial, empty, with no label. I carefully extracted the vial using my pen. There were still traces of clear liquid clinging to the glass walls, and when I brought it close to my nose, I detected a faint, sweet smell that reminded me of bitter almonds. This case was getting stranger by the minute.